Exhaustion is not always evidence that you are doing too much. Sometimes it is evidence that you believe too much depends on you. Your hands may have completed the day's work, yet your mind is still working the night shift, measuring reactions, predicting trouble, revising conversations, and trying to control conclusions that have not arrived. This is the fatigue of excessive ownership. You are not only caring about people, you are managing everyone's emotions. You are not only trying to serve well, you are attempting to prevent every disappointment. You are not only preparing for difficulty, you are anticipating every crisis. You are not only doing excellent work, you are demanding that your effort guarantee every result. The visible task ends, but the invisible responsibility continues. That is why sleep may rest your body while pressure keeps possession of your mind. The truth is, duty and false burden do not speak the same language. Duty asks, what is the faithful action required of me? False burden asks, how can I make certain everything turns out the way it should? Duty has boundaries. False burden has no ending. Duty can be completed with integrity. False burden keeps accusing you after you have done what was yours to do. This does not mean your commitment is the problem. Your definition of commitment may be the problem. Care is not weakness. Competence is not a curse. Preparation is not fear. But when care becomes control, competence becomes captivity, and preparation becomes endless prediction, a responsible woman begins carrying weight that responsibility never assigned. Peace, then, is not passivity. It is not indifference, avoidance, or permission to neglect what matters. Peace is disciplined alignment. It allows you to act without panic, care without taking over, prepare without rehearsing disaster, and remain present without pretending to be sovereign over every consequence. Peace does not reduce responsibility. It removes the confusion that makes responsibility frantic. We are going to put this pressure under examination. We will separate what you must carry, what you may influence, what belongs to another person's choice, and what no human effort can control. The purpose is not to excuse neglect. It is to preserve genuine duty by removing counterfeit ownership. But first, you must confront the fear beneath the weight. What private belief has convinced a capable woman that if she puts anything down, everything will collapse? Why does an intelligent, capable woman keep accepting weight that drains her? Because beneath her schedule there may be a private contract signed by fear and enforced by guilt. If I stop monitoring, reminding, anticipating, and repairing, something will fail and the failure will be mine. That agreement rarely announces itself. It develops through experience. You notice what others overlook. You respond when others delay. You remember what others forget. Soon, people trust your competence and more responsibility comes toward you. But there is a danger hidden inside being capable. You can begin to confuse the ability to assist with the authority to control. Capability says, I can contribute. Captivity says, I must secure the result. Capability offers strength. Captivity demands certainty. The moment being able to help becomes being required to prevent every failure. Your gift is no longer serving through you. Fear is governing you through your gift. Let us be clear. Releasing false responsibility does not cancel real responsibility. You must still fulfill genuine duties, protect safety where protection is yours to provide, communicate honestly, keep necessary commitments, and intervene when conscience and circumstance require it. Release is not abandonment. Boundaries are not neglect. The issue is not whether you will act. The issue is whether you will claim ownership beyond your action. There is a profound difference between being dependable and believing you are indispensable. A dependable woman shows up, tells the truth, keeps her word, and completes her portion. A woman who believes she is indispensable remains inwardly alert even after her portion is complete, because she assumes the whole structure depends upon her attention. One produces service. The other produces vigilance without rest. Why is this agreement so difficult to break? Because control often disguises itself as morality. You fear being called selfish if you step back. You fear disappointing people who have grown accustomed to your availability. You fear appearing careless when you cannot foresee every complication. You fear watching someone encounter a consequence you might have helped them avoid. So you keep stepping in, not always because intervention is required, but because guilt makes restraint feel cruel. Yet preventing every consequence is not the same as loving well. Constant availability is not the same as faithfulness, and being needed is not the same as being rightly assigned. Challenge the contract. Ask, what is truly mine to do, and what am I trying to guarantee? Then declare, I will be trustworthy without pretending to be unlimited. I will offer what is mine without taking possession of what is not. You are accountable for faithful action, not for possessing unlimited authority over every result. That truth does not make you less reliable. It makes your reliability honest. And now the decisive line must be drawn. Where does responsible action end, and where does the attempt to control outcomes begin? Trustworthiness has a definable scope. Responsibility is the stewardship of what has legitimately been placed in your hands. Your choices, your actions, your standards, your words, and your follow-through. It governs the quality of your participation. It asks whether you acted with honesty, prepared with care, communicated what mattered, honored your commitments, and maintained the boundaries necessary for integrity. Control begins when you cross from governing your participation into claiming ownership of another person's participation. It tries to possess their response, their timing, their judgment, their emotional state, or their final decision. Responsibility says, I must answer for what I choose. Control says, I must answer for what they choose. That transfer is where legitimate power becomes false ownership. Listen to the questions each one produces. Responsibility asks, what is mine to do? Control demands, how can I guarantee what everyone else will do? One question directs you toward action. The other condemns you to prediction. One clarifies your assignment. The other expands your burden until it includes every will, every reaction, and every possible conclusion. You do have influence. Influence is real, valuable, and limited. You may offer counsel, communicate expectations, state what you will accept, enforce a boundary, and choose the consequence of continued behavior. But influence is not possession. You can make truth available. You cannot make another person welcome it. You can make expectations clear. You cannot make another person honor them. You can decide what access you will permit. You cannot dictate what judgment someone forms about your decision. This is especially important in a difficult conversation. Your responsibility is to prepare honestly, speak clearly, listen carefully, and refuse manipulation without becoming manipulative yourself. You may acknowledge harm, ask necessary questions, state what must change, and choose an appropriate boundary if it does not. Those actions belong to you, but agreement does not belong to you. The other person may understand and still resist. They may need time. They may misinterpret your clarity, dislike your boundary, or refuse the opportunity placed before them. Their response can inform your next responsible action, but it cannot become your private assignment. You are required to conduct the conversation with integrity, not to manufacture the verdict you prefer. This boundary does not diminish your agency. It purifies it. You are not powerless because you cannot govern another will. You are powerful within the territory actually entrusted to you. Mature responsibility knows both how to act and where to stop. Carry this formula forward. Complete the action, release the verdict, and remain available for the next legitimate duty. Complete what is yours without delay. Release what must be decided beyond you. Then stay attentive, not anxiously attached to the previous result, but ready for whatever rightful responsibility comes next. And once this distinction is clear, a harder question appears. When does loving support remain compassion, and when does helping quietly become taking over? Love is not proven by how much of another person's life you are willing to carry. It is proven by whether your care preserves truth, dignity, and rightful responsibility. You can care deeply without assuming what belongs to another capable adult. Compassion sees distress and does not look away. It listens without contempt, responds without humiliation, offers appropriate help, and tells the truth about its limits. Compassion may sit beside pain. It may provide counsel, resources, presence, encouragement, or a clearly defined contribution. But it does not require you to become the decision maker, the repairer, and the consequence bearer for someone else. Rescue is different. Rescue repeatedly takes over another capable person's decisions, duties, repairs, or consequences because immediate discomfort feels unbearable. Compassion asks, what help honors this person's dignity and responsibility? Rescue asks, what can I take over so this tension disappears? One strengthens another person's agency. The other quietly replaces it. Why does rescue feel so virtuous? Because it produces quick relief. The problem becomes quieter. The disappointment is postponed. The helper remains known as dependable, generous, and strong. Conflict is avoided, and guilt retreats for a moment. Yet relief is not always restoration. Sometimes the intervention that settles today's crisis protects tomorrow's irresponsibility. You see this when you repeatedly repair a relative's commitments before anyone notices the failure. You see it when you secretly complete a co-worker's neglected work, preserving the appearance of competence while absorbing the cost yourself. You see it when you regulate a loved one's mood before expressing a legitimate need, arranging your words, timing, and emotions around the goal of preventing their discomfort. In each case, help has crossed into substitution. Support says, I will contribute what is appropriate. Substitution says, I will become responsible for keeping your life from confronting you. Support can give a person tools. Substitution keeps using the tools for them. Support leaves room for choice and consequence. Substitution makes one person responsible for living two lives. This does not mean every struggle should be met with distance. Vulnerability, genuine incapacity, and assigned care may require substantial assistance. The issue is not the amount of help, it is the truth of the assignment. Ask, am I assisting this person in carrying what is theirs, or am I carrying it so they will not have to? A boundary answers that question without cruelty. It is not punishment, revenge, or the withdrawal of human concern. It is truthful information about access and participation, what you can offer, what you cannot continue, and what conditions are necessary for healthy involvement. You may remain kind while declining to conceal. You may remain present while refusing to perform. You may remain loving while allowing another adult to answer for adult choices. Compassion stands beside a person in truth. Rescue tries to stand in that person's place. Release the substitution, not the love. Keep the concern, return the responsibility, and let truth govern your help. But false ownership does not operate only through helping. It also appears when wise readiness becomes endless rehearsal of what might go wrong. The same boundary applies to the future. You can prepare for what may happen. You cannot force tomorrow to reveal itself before it arrives. Preparation and worry may look toward the same uncertainty, but they do not perform the same work. Preparation serves action. Worry serves the demand for certainty. Preparation has an observable process. It identifies a credible need, gathers relevant information, chooses a response, and either takes the next action or schedules it. It produces something usable, a decision, a contingency, a conversation, a reservation, a deadline, a document, or a reminder. Then it reaches its present limit and stops. Worry refuses that limit. It returns to feared outcomes after no useful new action is being produced. It reviews the same facts, imagines another complication, demands another assurance, and sends the body through another cycle of vigilance. Preparation asks, what response does this possibility require? Worry asks, how can I eliminate uncertainty before I proceed? One creates readiness, the other creates repeated alarm. Suppose a financial conversation is approaching. Responsible preparation may require you to review the figures, list the essential questions, confirm the relevant facts, decide what you can accept, and choose a fallback if the preferred agreement is unavailable. That is a plan. But if you continue reopening the figures without new information, inventing additional reactions, and rehearsing every possible turn because you still do not feel safe, you are no longer strengthening the plan. You are asking thought to provide a guarantee that thought cannot give. Do not dignify fear merely by calling it planning. A thought is not preparation simply because it concerns the future. Repetition is not diligence when it produces no clearer decision, no improved contingency, and no new responsible action. More thinking is not always more wisdom. Sometimes it is the refusal to accept that responsible action has reached its current boundary. This is where a capable woman must learn to stop without accusing herself of carelessness. Stopping does not mean the matter is unimportant. It means you have completed what the present moment permits. If new facts arrive, you may revise. If circumstances change, you may respond. But until then, reopening the plan does not increase your authority over the outcome, it only renews the strain. Ask the stopping question. Is there another responsible action available now, or am I trying to feel certain about what cannot yet be known? If an action exists, name it and do it or schedule it. If none exists, release the rehearsal. Preparedness remains attentive. Anxiety remains on guard. Now the three distinctions are complete. Responsibility is not control, compassion is not rescue, and preparation is not worry. But principles must become practical. The next step is to place the burden on paper, divide it by rightful ownership, and discover what requires action, influence, patience, or release. Vague burdens feel unlimited. Written burdens become examinable. As long as the pressure remains, everything is on me, fear can assign you responsibility for everything at once. So begin with precision. Write one sentence naming the feared outcome, the people involved, and the responsibility you believe you hold. Do not write, "My family is a mess." Write, "I fear this conflict will worsen, and I believe I must keep these two adults calm and make them reconcile." Clarity does not solve the burden, but it reveals what the burden is claiming. Now interrogate that claim with 6 questions. What decision is actually mine? What action is required now? What belongs to another capable person? What outcome depends on multiple factors? What legitimate duty must not be neglected? What am I doing only to reduce my discomfort with uncertainty? Answer slowly. Fear answers in generalities. Responsibility answers in particulars. Then draw 4 columns. Label them: mine to do, mine to influence, theirs to choose, and beyond present control. Break the burden into parts and place every part somewhere. Your conduct, commitments, boundaries, and required decisions belong under mine to do. Counsel you may offer, expectations you may communicate, and requests you may make belong under mine to influence. Another adult's response, effort, honesty, timing, and cooperation belong under theirs to choose. Final results, unknown developments, and conclusions dependent on many people or conditions belong under beyond present control. Do not let one item occupy every column. If it is yours to influence, it is not yours to guarantee. If it is theirs to choose, it is not yours to perform. If it is beyond present control, it is not yours to keep solving in your imagination. Each column requires a different response. Act on duty. Communicate within influence. Return choices to their owners. Release uncontrollable outcomes from recurring mental work. This is where confusion becomes direction, because every category now has an appropriate movement. You stop treating concern as though it always requires intervention. Next, convert every item under mine to do into one observable action. Name who owns it, where its boundary lies, and when it will be completed. Handle the matter is too vague. I will send the necessary information by Thursday, answer the questions within my role, and document the decision can be completed. Responsibility must become specific enough to finish, or anxiety will keep expanding it. For every false burden, write a release sentence. I will no longer monitor another adult's choice as though vigilance can make it wise. I will not predict reactions that have not occurred. I will not repair what belongs to someone capable of responding. I will not emotionally carry an outcome that remains undecided. Release must be stated plainly because false ownership survives through ambiguity. But examine the page for disguised neglect. Have you mislabeled a safety need, dependent care duty, contractual obligation, ethical responsibility, or necessary escalation as something outside your control? Peace does not authorize avoidance. The audit does not erase duty. It puts duty in its truthful place. If protection, care, reporting, follow-through, or intervention is genuinely assigned to you, return it to mine to do and make the action concrete. Finally, choose a review point only when a legitimate deadline or new information justifies one. Write the date or trigger. Until then, do not keep checking merely because uncertainty has become uncomfortable. A burden becomes manageable when it is named, assigned to its proper jurisdiction, and matched with either an action or a release. This page gives you 2 honest results: something definite to do and something definite to stop carrying. Now the method must enter the places where guilt speaks loudest: family, caregiving, friendship, and intimate relationships. Because close love is where another person's burden can most easily begin to feel like your own. Now take the audit into the family. Imagine a woman who believes she must keep every gathering peaceful, prevent an adult relative from making another costly mistake, coordinate every practical need, and ensure that no one feels disappointed. Her concern is sincere, but sincerity does not make every burden hers. One family situation can contain genuine duty, limited influence, another person's agency, and outcomes no one can guarantee. Under Mind to Do, place honest communication, agreed caregiving tasks, protection of dependents, and enforcement of personal boundaries. If you promise to arrange an appointment, make the call. If a child or dependent requires protection, act. If harmful conduct requires a boundary, state it and uphold it. Love must remain reliable where responsibility is real. Under Mind to Influence, place advice, invitations, requests, and clearly stated concerns. You may say, I am concerned about this decision. You may invite cooperation, request help, recommend qualified support, or ask relatives to honor an agreement. But influence does not become greater because you repeat yourself without end. Say what is true, make the request clear, and allow your words to stand. Endless persuasion is often control wearing the language of concern. Under Theirs to Choose, place the capable adult's decision, emotional reaction, follow-through, and learning process. They may reject wise advice. They may resent a reasonable boundary. They may delay, disappoint, or discover through consequences what your warnings could not teach. Their feelings deserve humane regard, but their feelings do not determine whether your action was faithful. You can listen to disappointment without making it your command. Under Beyond Present Control, place perfect harmony, universal approval, and guaranteed future safety. No amount of vigilance can promise that every relationship will remain comfortable, every decision will be wise, or every future difficulty will be prevented. A family is made of many wills. You may participate with integrity. You cannot produce unanimity by personal effort. But do not use this distinction to excuse abandonment. Genuine danger, dependency, abuse, medical need, or legal obligation may enlarge what responsible care requires. Protection may demand intervention. Incapacity may require sustained assistance. Serious conditions may require qualified support, reporting, documentation, or escalation. The audit is not permission to disappear when care becomes costly. It is a method for discovering what care truthfully requires. So finish the legitimate caregiving call. Hold the necessary conversation. Complete the task you agreed to carry. Then release the private rehearsal of how every relative may answer, complain, approve, or refuse. Relational faithfulness means carrying your part with integrity, not carrying every person's part for them. You can remain loving without becoming the manager of the whole family's emotional climate. And the same confusion that burdens the home follows many women into the workplace, where excellence can quietly become ownership of every result. The workplace tests this principle because performance is public. A major deliverable is approaching. One colleague has become unreliable. Leadership has not settled a critical decision, and the final result will be visible to clients or executives. The pressure whispers, if anything fails, it will become a judgment on me. But visibility does not enlarge your authority. It only makes truthful ownership more important. Under Mind to Do, place preparation, accurate work, quality control, documentation, timely communication, and the responsibilities clearly assigned to your role. Request the support you need. Identify dependencies. Record decisions. Communicate material risks before they become surprises. When delay, misconduct, or serious exposure requires escalation, escalate through the proper channel. Excellence does not hide reality to preserve an appearance of order. Excellence makes reality clear enough for responsible action. Under Mind to Influence, place clear expectations, constructive feedback, negotiation, and persuasive presentation. You may explain the consequences of delay. You may recommend a stronger approach. You may present evidence with confidence and ask leadership for a decision. But persuasion is not authority. A powerful presentation cannot guarantee agreement, and a reasonable expectation cannot compel another professional to meet it. Under Theirs to Choose, place your colleagues' follow-through and your manager's judgment. Under Beyond Present Control, place the client's ultimate response, shifting conditions, and results produced by variables no one person governs. Their decisions may require your next action, but they are not extensions of your will. Do not convert organizational uncertainty into a personal accusation. And watch the temptation to overfunction. Secretly absorbing every neglected task may protect one deadline, but it also conceals the broken expectation. It teaches the system that your capacity has no boundary and that another person's failure will be quietly financed by your energy. That is not sustainable excellence. It is invisible compensation for dysfunction. This does not mean allowing preventable failure without response. Clarify ownership. Ask for confirmation. Offer appropriate help. Document the risk. Escalate when the stakes or your obligations require it. Then stop at the truthful limit. When your work is complete, the risks have been communicated, the proper escalation has occurred, and the next review is scheduled. Additional private panic is not an added contribution. It improves no document, changes no decision, and strengthens no team. Your professional identity must rest on a standard you can actually govern. Reputation is shaped over time by consistent integrity, sound judgment, clear communication, and dependable execution. But reputation cannot be secured by controlling every observer, every interpretation, and every variable surrounding your work. Do excellent work, communicate reality, respect the limit of your professional jurisdiction, yet even a correctly released burden may return tomorrow. That is why peace must become more than a conclusion on paper. It must become a practiced response whenever the mind attempts to reclaim what truth has already returned. A burden can be assigned correctly and still return emotionally. That does not mean the audit failed. It means an old habit has presented itself for correction. Release is not waiting until anxiety disappears. Release is refusing, again and again, to convert an uncontrollable outcome into a personal assignment. Begin the day by identifying what is actually yours. Ask, what actions are assigned to me today? Name them plainly. Do not begin with every possible consequence. Begin with your conduct, your commitments, your communication, and the next honest step. A clear assignment gives your energy a rightful direction. When pressure rises, ask the jurisdiction question. What is mine to do here, and what am I trying to guarantee? Then declare, this action is mine, this outcome is not. I will do what is mine with integrity, and I will not rehearse what is outside my authority. Do not wait for your feelings to agree before you speak truth. Feelings may arrive slowly. Disciplined agreement can begin now. In a relationship, replace silent control with accurate language. I can listen, tell the truth, and define my participation. I cannot make this decision for you. That sentence keeps compassion without accepting substitution. It allows you to remain present without becoming responsible for another will. When uncertainty concerns the future, say, if a new action becomes available, I will take it. Until then, repetition is not preparation. Readiness responds to information. Anxiety repeats itself in search of certainty. Refuse to confuse mental motion with meaningful action. Use this interruption whenever pressure returns. Name the burden. Classify it. Duty, influence, another person's choice, or an uncontrollable outcome. Complete any real action available. Speak the appropriate release sentence. Then redirect your attention to the present assignment. Not the imagined conversation, not the unresolved verdict, not the next 10 possibilities, the present assignment. In the evening, close what has been completed. Ask, did I fulfill today's genuine duties? Is anything unfinished that requires a scheduled action? If so, schedule it. If not, let the day end. Do not reopen a released outcome merely because quiet has made uncertainty easier to hear. And when the same burden returns tomorrow, do not call yourself defeated. Its return is not proof that peace is impossible. It is an invitation to apply the distinction again. Repetition is how discernment becomes character. You do not sustain peace by never feeling pressure. You sustain it by repeatedly returning pressure to the truth. Morning by morning, moment by moment, evening by evening, false ownership loses its authority. You become practiced in action without control, care without rescue, and preparation without endless rehearsal. Then release becomes more than something you understand. It becomes the way a peaceful, responsible woman lives. A peaceful woman is not a woman without weight. She is a woman who carries the weight that truthfully belongs to her. Her peace does not come from abandoning responsibility. It comes from removing false ownership, so that responsibility can stand clear, strong, and undivided. She chooses responsibility instead of control. She chooses compassion instead of rescue. She chooses preparation instead of worry. She gives focused action what mental over-ownership once consumed. She fulfills her duties, speaks with courage, honors her limits, and refuses the demand to guarantee every result. This is not detachment. She still cares. This is not passivity. She still acts. This is not neglect. She knows what protection, commitment, honesty, and follow-through require, and she supplies them faithfully. But she no longer measures love by exhaustion or integrity by her ability to prevent every disappointment. Perhaps you feared that if you stopped holding everything together, everything would collapse. But release does not create the weakness. It reveals where a relationship, structure, or expectation was depending on your overfunctioning. That revelation may be uncomfortable, but it is truthful. What can stand only because you continually exceed your rightful assignment was never being sustained by healthy responsibility. So complete the audit today. Put one burden on paper. Separate duty from influence, another person's choice from what no one presently controls. Identify one weight that belongs elsewhere and return it without apology or hostility. Then name one genuine action that deserves your undivided energy. Do it carefully. Do it courageously. Do it without trying to purchase certainty through strain. Peace is not the absence of responsibility. It is the strength that appears when responsibility is no longer mixed with false ownership. Let that strength become your identity, your standard, and your practice. I will carry what is mine with courage. I will return what is not mine with clarity. I will not confuse anxiety with love or control with responsibility.